And we are live, episode 77 of the Gretsch Afternoon Drum Break. I'm your host, Neil LaFortune, and today's guest is the esteemed Ralph Salmins. Now, he's a UK-based drummer, currently in France, as he says, in France, and taking a lot of information from his website at ralphsalmins.com. He is a session drummer, live drummer, composer, producer, clinician, and professor at the Royal College of Music and Guildhall School of Music and Drama. His credits are massive. I did not realize just how ridiculous. I think I went like this on my browser and then, this way to try and then they kept going. And I was still around the E's or the F's, and it was crazy. It's literally is the who's who of pop, jazz, rock, classical, from the Waterboys, Van Morrison, Paul McCartney, Bjork, George Martin, Aretha Franklin, Elton John, Madonna, James Brown, Chaka Khan, Lady Gaga, Dionne Warwick, Quincy Jones, Diana Ross, every Ross you could imagine, including Bob Ross. Now, the list goes on and on, plus over 180 soundtracks. Plus, in the jazz world account, Basie Orchestra, Mose Allison, Gene Harris, Herb Ellis, Art Farmer, Wynton Marsalis. Please go to ralphsalmins.com and read the rest for yourselves, because we are just, it's just crazy. So, Ralph, thank you so much for taking the time and being a guest on this little live stream show celebrating Gretsch drums and talking about your career thus far. So welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm so delighted to be here, Neil. I can't tell you. I'm chuffed to bits. As they say, his career reads like his CV reads like a who's he of the music industry.
You're being more than modest, but I mean, even one or two of those artists that you have played with there would probably make my career. I mean, like a little fellow like Paul McCartney or George Martin and ABBA, the folks from ABBA as well. So one or two of those would make a normal person's career, but you've been very, very fortunate. But I mean, you also bring something amazing to the table for all of these artists, and we will get into that. But holy cow! So where are you exactly right now? You're not in your living room. You're in.
Yeah, I'm in my living room at the moment, and this is in where I'm currently living, which is in southwest France, like that join between France and Spain. And you've got a mountain range there called the Pyrenees, and we're just north of those, near a city called Toulouse, which is where one of the main places for Airbus Industries, where they make aircraft. But it's a beautiful old French city. I'm not in the town; I'm just in the countryside. There's nothing going on here. They just got some Gretsch drums, cows, and a few goats, a donkey, and some cuckoos, and a church bell. That's it.
Nothing could be further from the bustling streets of London and the whole music row business and things like that.
True.
Now, is that something? Are you there because you are on holiday or away from work currently, or are you just there kind of?
Yeah. Well, what happened was I moved here a few years ago just because I fancied a change. My kids grew up, and we thought, hey, we'll do something a bit different. So I have an apartment in just outside London that I go back and stay at when I'm working in London, because really most of my work still is in London unless I'm away somewhere else. So, but most of the time when I'm not doing that, I'm over here. So when I'm here, I'm not really plugged into the French music scene, but I do some online sessions and, cutting the grass mainly, that sort of thing.
That's fabulous.
Taking it relatively easy, but when I'm back, I'm working really hard. So it's sort of a balance. It used to be just only work hard, and now it's I've got a balance. So it's good, but it's a very peaceful, very beautiful place. If you look up the Pyrenees, it's lovely. It's great in the winter because we have skiing, which is great. You'll be no stranger to that in Canada. all around the world. Lots of people got some nice places, but and then in the summer it's just green fields. It's very temperate. It's not too hot because right now we've got a heat wave, but yeah, we're okay. We're like I can't really do Fahrenheit, but yeah, we're like in the sort of, even a hot day here we had like 33. I don't know what that is, but it's not too bad. It's not too bad, and it cools down in the evening, so it's a lovely place to be.
Oh, it sounds wonderful. How long does it take you to get back to London from where you were?
Well, my nearest airport, Toulouse or Lourdes, they're both an hour's drive from me, and then it's like 90-minute flight.
Oh,
And it's easy. Yeah, it's relatively like door to door. It's about 6 hours, so it's pretty easy. And so that's why I go back a lot for my teaching and sessions and whatever. If anyone needs me, I'm generally getting back there.
that's
And I
wonderful.
just go. Yeah, it's not too bad. It's not too bad.
Now, I believe you said your mom is French.
That's right. My mum was une Parisienne. She was from Paris, and she came over to England when she was 19 to learn English, and she never went back.
Wow.
So I've got some French, thankfully. My French is a bit ropey, but it's functional. I don't know. Yeah, you know, it's okay. I get by. Thankfully. Yeah, I mean, you've got to speak French down here. People are so lovely down here. They're gorgeous. But yeah, you got to make the effort. It's not hard. You know, it's like, yeah, you're not in the French area, are you? Where you are?
No, we are definitely not in a French. We're probably about 5 hours away from Quebec, which
Yes.
obviously is French, but I am half French Canadian.
Yes.
So I do speak some French, la fortune, but
Ah, yes, exactly. On est français ici.
c'est vrai, mon Dieu, we'll do the show en français. No, we're not going to do the show in French. It would be ropey, as you would say.
I would fail. I would fail so badly.
This is great. So I'm chuffed that you're here. This is amazing. I did watch a couple of interviews that you did a few years back and learned some great things about you, so that I like to learn things about the guests so that I don't go in and ask the same kind of questions, and but I wanted to also not know everything so that we don't really have much to talk about, or that. So what are you currently doing musically? I saw you posted that you were at British Cove Studios a few days back. Is that a Mark Knopfler? Does he own that studio still, or
Yes,
no?
he does. Yeah, British Grove Studios. It's in Chiswick, West London. It's Mark Knopfler's studio. It is honestly, it's such an amazing studio. It's one of the best studios I've ever been in. It's just incredible. It's lush. Everything's amazing, and it's wonderful place. Really great. They've got like insane acoustics. The control room's ridiculous. They've got like a big Neve 88R console, but next to it they've got those amazing old TGI Chandler boards from EMI, from the old Abbey Road boards. I'm not sure where those particular ones came from, but they were old EMI boards anyway. They got two of them. They're all mint. I think there's a red desk there even. That's like the Beatles desk. I mean, he's got some amazing stuff. Totally deserved. I mean, Mark Knopfler's a genius. If he can't have an amazing studio, but the fact that he chose to build one, a beautiful one, is great. And we're lucky because he rents it out, and then we go in and do sessions there. So anyone can rent it actually, and it's just beautiful. So yeah, it's really nice when I get to go in there because they've got amazing mics and it's great sound, and the monitoring is incredible. It's lovely.
What were you doing there? What project was that?
That was just a jingle. But it's quite a big it was like a sort of, now what they call it is like audio branding campaign. So I was asking them about what you're doing, and they're like, oh well, we brand it, we do like the jingles for TV, cinema adverts, we do the holding music, internet, everything. It's a whole package they do these days. So it was really good fun, quite involved actually. I got one of my students to come along. Sometimes I get them to come along to sessions, and he sat with me and he was watching it, so they can see what goes down, And they were really super specific. But funnily enough, I was actually working for one of my former students who was arranging the session. So that was great. His name's Rob Eklund. He's a really talented arranger, but he used to be a percussion player at the Royal College, and then he kind of got into playing piano. He's a great piano player, composer, great arranger, fantastic guy. And so I was actually working for him, which was great. So he said to me that I taught him how to write for drums, but I was complimenting him on how well he writes for them. And he said, "Oh, you taught me," and I can't remember that at all. But he writes great. So he writes very specifically. But this was kind of like a 4 on the floor thing. Very specific. All the fills were written out, and then they wanted exactly what they wanted, and then we tried a few different things. Yeah, it was normally a jingle session is 1 hour. This was actually 2 hours, and I was working the whole time during that. They had loads of different things, different versions, acoustic version, simple overdubs, shaker on top, tom overdubs, all of them, which is it was nice actually. And I usually have 2 or 3 toms on my studio setup, but they specifically requested 4, which is back to my old setup, like the old days. I used to have the 4, 10, 12, 14, 16. Nice. I used to have them hanging in the old days, actually, which I still have a soft spot for. Yeah. But I've got 2 floors now, so I normally go 12, 14, 16, but I got the 10 in there, and it was nice, you know. I'm not that tempted to play, you know, if you've got 4 toms, it's like, oh, you've got to use them, that old chestnut. I'm not really like that, but it does make you play a certain way, the setup, doesn't it? You find that?
I do.
Yeah. In front of you, you play a certain way. Do you find that? Yeah.
If I have 2 toms, I'm definitely going to play different than if I have that single rack tom there. Funny. I just do, and 2 floor toms. I never have 2 floor toms. Some backline kits recently have had the 2, and I'm like, I must use that other one. I'm not going to lean on it or put my towel, or I'm going to play that. It was fun.
It's funny, isn't it? Well, I was using just like 12, 16 for a long time. And then my tech just put in, he just put in a 14 there, or I wanted a 14 for something. And I like the 14 and the 16. I mean, I struggled to tune the 14-inch floor toms. I don't know about you. I wasn't really used to it, and I think with the hanging drums, I was a bit spoiled. We're in geek world. Didn't take long, did it? But I finally sort of found a way to get the 14 to sound really, really how I want it. I'm not talking about like a jazz 14, because I don't have any trouble with those, but like a real lovely low pitch studio 14. Just took me a little while. I had to really learn how to get that, and I got it finally. And I'm really happy with it now. So, you know, I normally just have them in. But honestly, I'll play on anything, to be honest with you.
Now, do you have drums in cartage in London?
Yes, my drum tech is Simon from London Drum Company. He's amazing. He's a top tech. He does everybody, and he's a really great guy. He's done, you know, you name it, he's done it. He looks after everyone. I don't know. He's got like Vinny's drums, Jojo Mayer's drums, everybody, and he's brilliant. So he's like, you can ask him anything, and you just get it. And he sets up great, takes care of it, anything that he's doing. And so he's got I keep my drums with him in London. I've got a few sets with him. And then I've got a couple of sets in my apartment in Hatfield, which is just north of London. And then in France, I've got quite a few sets. I haven't really kept tabs with them yet, how many I've got, but I've got a few for sure. Of a few descriptions. Yeah, we can geek out on that. But so I'm a bit spread out with them at the moment, but most of them in the UK, and I've got quite a few here. And yeah, I mean, it's like having children, really. It's like looking after, you know what they like to look after. You got to look after them. You got to maintain them, haven't you?
You do.
Keep them all nice. Make sure the heads are all fresh and tuned, and make sure, you know, keep them in. Yeah, the tuning is good, and yeah, they take a bit of maintenance. I don't really mind doing it, but I've got enough drums that every time I get a drum kit out, I'm like, oh yeah, what needs doing here? What is that? Great. Yeah, you know, it's like.
That's great.
So yeah, I've got them all over the place, basically.
What a dream. I remember saying that to my ABBA peeps that I play in, and
yes,
you know, when I fly somewhere and there's backline, or we go somewhere and I don't bring my kit, it's nice that it was set up on the weekend and it was just a few minor adjustments. But that would be really nice to go to a session and your own drums that you're used to playing would be there. Maybe one day. But
oh man, it's really nice to do that. But honestly, Neil, don't I am not immune to using backline, rented backline. I use them loads. And like you and me and all of us guys who do that, we have to make those drums sound like we want them. We got to set them up, and I've got a routine of things that I like to tilt the bass drum back up high up a bit like Dave Weckl does, so that you've got good contact with the beater. I like muffling a certain way. I like a few things just how I want it, and I basically just do it. When I get a backline kit, I just do it, and then I can get pretty much, if I've got a good set and like I get a Gretsch or something and they're great condition, there's no problem. I can get them pretty much very close to where I want them. Those lovely little things that you have your own drums every time, they're great because they already start in a good tuned state. So when my drums arrive in the studio, they're already at a point where I'm only tweaking, which is all I want to do. I don't, I might change a head or two if need be, but I don't want to be doing like major things when we're in the session because you haven't got the time to do that.
Right.
You know how it's like. You just got to, you get out on a gig, you haven't got ages to just mess around. You just got to get out there, do it, sound check, and eat and do the gig. That's how it is.
That's exactly.
So, wow. Yeah, you know how.
What about? I'm curious to know about your muffling. Maybe what do you do for? Oh, I know. Here we go. I'm going to ask you. So what
I love this.
What do you have for? Let's actually talk about all of your drums then. What do you have for your batter head and a reso head, and what do you use for muffling, and what size bass drum?
Great question. Well, like for my studio setup that I turn up, and I don't know what the gig or the session is. I have a 2216, which I'm very, very happy with. I think it's a 16. Yeah, I think it's 16. It might, I don't know, it might even be an 18, the one I've got. But anyway, I've had that ever since I signed to Gretsch, which I can't remember when that was. It was quite a while ago. And that was, when Gretsch were making the drums, it was all back in the old days. I got that. It's a 16 or an 18. Might be an 18, my current one, that one that was in British Grove, or a 16. I've got some 16s, and I have got an old round badge that's in my front hall here, and that's a 2214. That's a round badge drum, and that's a beautiful drum. Well, they're all great. And then for the rest of the kit, I generally use I like ambassador coated. But I'm also on the top, and then underneath I like ambassador clear. But snare drum generally ambassador coated, usual snare reso. But I do quite like on my jazz drums. I've got one with a diplomat coated, which is beautiful. So sometimes when I do like orchestral drums where they want like really quiet orchestral drums, some Gershwin or something, I use that. And then sometimes, I was when I was touring, like in the last, basically about the last year or something, with the Waterboys, which is my last band. I'm not with them now, but that was my last gig. And I went over to clears. I love clears, just love them. So, except on the floor tom, like when I was playing coated, I tend to play coated Emperor on the floor tom, just because it's a little bit easier to handle. And then also an Emperor clear on the floor tom is nice to handle as well. But I don't mind an ambassador clear on the floor as well, but that's going to get some muffling. And then for muffling, well, I'm no stranger to muffling. I like it. So people will comment and say, wow, there's a load of muffling going down there, the purists. But in the studio, it will be not, quite often that I've got moon gel on all the drums, maybe a piece or half a piece, or just a little bit, just to take a tiny bit off the edge of it. And then on the snare drum, I'll start, probably with one, between sort of none to about, I could have about like 4 moon gels and a load of gaffer tape, like duct tape as
Right.
well, if it needs it, like really flappy, really dead, really low, really flappy. And I've got one drum which what needs a lot of muffling, and I just throw it at that thing, and then yeah, it just takes all the tones out of it, but then you get a really beautiful, thick, dense sound, which it depends. I'm always discussing with the producer. Do you want it livelier? Do you want it higher? Let's talk about the pitch of the snare. So it's a sort of it's one of those things where it's a conversation between me and the producer if I'm in the studio to get the snare sound that I'm thinking of and that they like for the track. And sometimes that will need a lot of muffling.
Wow.
And I don't mind doing it. And sometimes nothing, it just depends. Like that British Grove thing, I did some snare overdubs, and my main snare had quite a lot of muffling on it. It was quite dry, quite low. I just gave it to them. They loved it. They never said anything about the pitch at all. They were like, "Yep, we love that." And then I did some snare overdubs, flipped out to wood drum, and there was nothing. There was no muffling on that at all. And then I just did the overdubs on that, and they love that as well. It's quite high pitched, bright, very resonant. It was great for what it was. So, I'll pile in sometimes with muffling if it needs it. And if not, it just depends. Because it's like when you pull a head out, sometimes the heads can really need a lot. They're ringy. Sometimes they don't need much. In which case, I just fiddle around with it. Really, just so I like the sound.
Wow. This is phenomenal. And it's wild to me that you would actually ask the producer, because I obviously don't do sessions, certainly not like anywhere remotely. I do some demo things in here, but I kind of thought that you would I'm sure that they trust you, but asking them higher or Ralph, no, look.
No, I do. Yeah, we talk about it, definitely.
Right.
Talk about it. Yeah. And then a lot of the guys that I work with, we've got a relationship, and they're straight away they'll just pile in with like they'll listen, they'll just say, yeah, can you just make it a little more resonant, and maybe the pitch needs to come down a tiny bit or up a tiny bit, usually. And then we fiddle around with it. Sometimes I change drums, and then they're like, oh no, we like the old one best, or no, we're not hearing that, or we're not feeling that, or it's definitely a dialogue. And there's quite a lot of messing around with snares, and I bring a few to the sessions, and people, I think the pitch of the snare is one of those things. It's almost like it dictates the style of the whole music, so that whole thing about like I saw Steve Jordan play with Eric Clapton, which was absolutely mind-blowing, by the way. But I saw him swap out snares on that. Have you seen that? And he was flipping them out, pretty much every tune and everything. And I was thinking, oh, maybe this is a bit gratuitous, And then when I heard the sound of it, I was like, this is so good. And I started doing that a little bit in the last few years in the Waterboys. After I saw Steve do that, I thought, this is great. So I had like my main live drum was a 6.5 hammered brass. Gretsch. Then on my left, I had a 13 by 6.5 chrome snare drum, which I pretty much had no muffling on at all.
Wow. And
then the brief for Mike Scott from the Waterboys, whose band it is, was like he likes a fat sounding snare. So I used to muffle that. I used to tune it quite low, quite muffled, and then I would swap that out for a change of sound with a 6.5 USA wooden drum, which I mean, I love those drums. They're so playable. You can do anything with them, but
Yeah.
I used to just bring them out and have a tiny bit of muffling on them, hardly anything at all. And that used to be my high pitched snare. I love playing it. It was so much easier to play a high pitched drum than it is a low pitched drum,
Mm-hmm.
because you've got to physically sort of lean into a slack headed drum, haven't you? More. So every time I put that on, I was like, yeah, this is great. This is so easy. You know, I love playing it. But the brief of the gig generally was like, Mike likes a fat drum. So I had pretty much those 3 drums on that gig for a few years, and it was terrific, to be honest with you. I really love that. I could get everything I wanted, like low, medium, and then high. And I had that. So I had low and high all the time. I just flipped up the medium. I used to swap them around over my tech, or I would just swap them or whatever. It was easy to do. That was good. So yeah, I don't know what the original question was then.
This is wonderful. And I did want to ask you how you muffled and how you tuned your bass drum. Is it different in the studio versus live? I imagine it would be. Maybe the mics are different, or do you tune and muffle the same way?
I do.
Or what do you normally do? Yeah.
Yeah, I do. Well, you know what I do is, I mean, I don't generally have a whole front head on. I don't have. I do like to have a hole on the front head, in the studio and live, just because people want to put a mic inside, and they want to put one usually just inside the hole, maybe. And the same goes for the studio. Although every now and then I will put a front head on if required, but very rarely. But my front head it's only got a small hole, so it lets the air out, so it gives a different feel to the batter head, but it has a resonance. So what I do is I generally muffle that front head. I take it off, and it's either it'll be like an ebony ambassador, or an ambassador. If I, my normal studio kit's got an ambassador. I don't even know if it's smooth. I can't remember, but it's an ambassador basically. And I take it off, and then I put loads of little strips of duct tape, gaffer tape, with that little like you put it on the head and you do the greater than equal sign. So it looks like that. Instead of it being flat, it's got like it looks exactly like a greater than equals. So it's like a long, a hoop, and a long. So you just make a hoop in the middle, and that absorbs more energy.
Wow.
It's basically like sort of moon gel light. It's probably about 25% of a moon gel. And if you put it flat on the head, it's probably about 15% of a moon gel or something, but it just takes the edge off it. And I put a load of those on my front bass drum head, so that there are no pings. There's nothing going bing, bing, bing. Because if you listen to the head on its own, it's very, very pingy. And the mics are going to pick that up. So I don't really want those frequencies on the head. So I just muffle it.
Are you there, Ralph? We may have to reload this, everyone. I have a feeling it is a connection on Ralph's end. And I hope everything returns soon. Okay. So he's going to join again here. This is awesome to hear what a real professional drummer in high-end studios and in high-end work, what he does as far as tuning and muffling. We'll definitely get into his story and his more about his journey thus far as we truck along here. We're just waiting here. I'm just going to double check and make sure that we are good. And all right, so since we are still live here, and I did not mention that we do have our giveaway for 2 of the Gretsch 140th anniversary pins. So, my question. Thank you, Jim. Oh, his power went off. Ralph's just waiting for the router to reboot. All good. I will send you your money back, Jim. That is funny. So the question, the first question we're going to have is, which artist owns the studio that Ralph was talking about, the British Cove studio in London? The first person here to write that musician's name that owns British Cove Studios is going to receive a Gretsch 140th anniversary pin. I will mail it to you, and the first person to reply here is going to get that. And it's a beautiful 140th pin that I picked up from Mr. Fred Gretsch in May in New York City at the cutting room. So, and if you have any questions, I'm just rereading Jim's message. Oh, that guy is so funny. Anybody else has any questions? All right, Earl's Jam Joint. Oh man, those were simultaneously my cousin Kim. Who is Earl's Jam Joint? Oh, Back Road Bound. Okay. Is that you, John? Let me know, because Earl's Jam Joint, Back Road Bound did show up first, and you win. That's funny. Hi, Adrian. How are you? And Ralph is back. We're just going to bring him on here.
Sorry about that.
We had someone say if they wanted their money back.
Ooh.
Are we there? And there we go. John, there we go.
Here we go.
All right. We are
Sorry,
back.
man.
No, there's nothing you can do.
Yeah, we had a little momentary power cut, like 1 second. The router went off. It's one of those. It's like sort of 3-minute boot up for the motor. It's like,
oh, that's okay. That happens a lot out where I live. I am 90 minutes north of Toronto in cottage country up here, and the weather can be strange. So sometimes we have no power. I was in the middle of an episode early on, and it went kaputs and it didn't save. And so anyway, so while you were gone, we did a little giveaway, a little question about. So there's 2 Gretsch 140th anniversary pins that I'm giving away today. And the question was, who is the musician that owns British Cove Studios? And we have my friend John Zizek guess Mark Knopfler. So, which is cool.
yes.
So I will be sending that to him. So, but I wanted to ask you. Let's just kind of wrap up because I could ask you tuning and muffling questions for hours. Because sometimes you do what you hear about, and then sometimes you just try certain things. So, 2 things. What do you put inside your bass drum for muffling? And can you tell us about what those leather chamois dampening things are? They look like I wanted to polish my car.
Oh, well, yeah. Well, inside my bass drum, I generally have. I've got like one of those T. I think it's a Drum Workshop actually. It's like the T mufflers. Don't know if you can get them anymore. It's pretty old,
Wow.
but it's fantastic. I've had it a long time. It's just got a T at either end, and it touches the front and the back, so it muffles both. And
okay.
One of those, it's like that shape. And then I've also got a protection racket, 1-sided muffler, which sits against the batter head. So that gives that a little extra muffling just to give me a bit more dryness. I don't always use that. Sometimes I pull that out or I put it sideways just to, and that's pretty much it. And then on the road, same thing, but it can be that I just put some towels in there. But they're a bit more of a if you're using towels every time the equipment gets moved, you have to reset. It's a bit of a job, so I prefer the actual proper mufflers, to be honest with you. So that's what I use, and I'm really fussy about how much the drum is muffled because the pitch, it affects the pitch. And so when I've been touring, to get my touring techs to get the muffling just right, normally takes some, I have to show them exactly, then they fiddle around with it, and then after about a week they've got it. But I'm a bit finicky with it, but generally once I get it right, there are no overtones, but there's a little life to the drum. That's what I like. And then I like older school. I've got Power Stroke 3 on the back, on the batter head coated. Sounds a bit retro, but it's not too fusiony. And then on the front, just whatever. Yeah, you know what I mean.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
Some heads can sound a bit fusiony, and my sound is generally, I like a retro sound, so they work really well for me because they're quite dry, but you can liven them up. If you take the muffling off, you've got quite a lively drum there, which is sometimes I do take the muffling out completely.
That's interesting. It sounds like I like the same kind of sounding drums as you, and I've got the Power Stroke 3. Was thinking about an EMAD, but I don't know. But it's only a 20, and it's a 16 by 20, so
nice.
I don't really want. But I really, now that the head is broken in, I've had them almost a year. I'm feeling there's a little more, maybe a little bit more body and some tone out of it, and with that head, it is a pre-muffled head. And as you were talking, man, do I ever like that? It seems to be more low end, and it just seems to be a little lower pitched as well. So
I have them quite low. I mean, my tuning in the studio and live really is quite low on the bass drum. And then, I mean, what I do live is I use in-ear monitors, which is great, but I have a sub on the drum riser. And they just give me a sub, a little one, with ears, and I am as happy as a pig in poo. That's it. I just love to feel that sub and hear it. It's great.
Nothing like it. I had one on Saturday, and I'm like, can you please turn? And it was like
great,
absolutely perfect. So I could hear things, but then you could feel that. I don't want to ever not have a sub again.
No, I love it. I really miss it when I don't have it, but if I got the choice, I choose that, and it really is comfortable to play. Everyone loves it. It's not too loud. It's great, So I'm fiddly with it. I like fiddling around with bass drums, but I love to get the mess around with it and get the sound that I like. And it's important that if you get it at source with any drums, I think you get the sound at source, then you're done. Then you don't need to worry about it and else does. But if you leave it to other people to get, it can be, you're not going to guarantee to get the sound that you want. So it's got to start from you, I think, hasn't it?
Yeah. Now, an obvious question, but I haven't asked it yet. Why Gretsch drums?
Well, there's the best in it.
In it?
He's the best. You know what? The thing is, I was, when I came out of college and I was playing some other drums that were great. They were just beautiful. I loved them and everything. And I went to a friend of mine, wonderful, absolutely wonderful jazz musician from South Africa called Brian Abrahams. And he was selling a drum set, and it was a Gretsch. It was a rosewood drum set. It was actually a 16 bass drum. Yeah, deep 16. I've never even seen a 16 back then. And like a 12, 13 on the top, and a 14. This was like sort of Jack DeJohnette set.
Yeah.
And I was playing quite a lot of jazz then. I was into it. And I went round to Brian's. I was like, Brian's like, hey, Ralph. And big, beautiful, deep voice he's got. It's like, have a go on these, And I sat down on these drums and I literally just fell in love with them instantly. They were really high pitch as well. And I bought them from Brian. And from that very moment on, I didn't really know much about the brands or anything. I just loved the drums. And then I bought a whole bunch of different Gretsch from different people, friends, shops, all secondhand actually, just used. But then I renovated some, and I've still got a lot of the drums that I bought I'm still using, like the round badge bass drum, and I got a ton of different ones, and I bought all of them. And then it was I just hooked up with Gretsch after I did this Robbie Williams project. He's a singer, British singer, but he's quite well known over here, very well known. And of course, his drummer is a Gretsch endorser, Carl Brazil. He's a good friend, amazing drummer, great guy. And I did this Swing When You're Winning, a swing record with Robbie, and then just Gretsch got in touch with me, and they said after I did an interview for Rhythm magazine, and they were asking about my drums, and I said, yeah, I just I'm not an endorser, I just use these drums, and the guys at Gretsch read it. They sent me a message saying, hey, thank you for giving us a shout out for the drums, and then I said, a pleasure. And I think they sent me a mug or something like that. It was great. Anyway, it was really nice. It's a beautiful thing to do. I didn't have to do that. Anyway, and then probably about a year. Yeah. I don't know where it is now. Anyway, about a year after that, then Gretsch, they didn't have a UK endorsers program back then. They were starting one up, and then they contacted me and asked me if I wanted to come on board, which of course the answer was yes. So wonderful. I feel very lucky. But I mean, I love the drums on every single level. They are so playable that you can use these drums on anything. They are recordable. They sound incredible, whether you got the pitch low, whether you got them high. The bass drums cannot be touched. They are just the best. I mean, I love them. I just love all the toms. The snares are fantastic. All of it, so I just adore the drums, really. And they're wonderful people as well. That's a bonus, but they are truly great people. And I mean, in the past, I received I got this card through the post, and it was like, oh, dear Ralph, happy birthday with really Fred Gretsch. I was like, what? Right. I couldn't believe it. I mean, they're beautiful, incredible. Fred and Dinah are so proactive as a company, and the whole thing. I mean, it's just they're amazing to be associated with. So that's why I play them, really. But I mean, if they booted me off the roster, which they could easily do, I'd still be playing them. I don't care, because they're the
best. Me and you both. I played them since 1986. And,
yes,
and
that's longer than me.
Lifelong. And I've had everything. Yamaha drums. I love other drum companies, but there's something special about what Gretsch does. And this is why other drummers that endorse other things will own a set of Gretsch drums. You've heard the Jeff Porcaro stories. Many other drummers. I used to see Paul DeLong, the great Canadian drummer. I would see him when he was playing another brand. I'd see him at the music trade show, and I'm like, how many Gretsch kits do you have? He goes, 6. So he's like, so he was, and Paul could play any drum brand that he wants. And
yeah, I think that was pretty common. But I mean, they are, people love them. I mean, it's not a coincidence that the greats, many of the greats played them.
Right.
And they were great drums then. They're great drums now. I've had really old drums. I had a 1938 broadcaster set, and I played a show on that, Crazy for You, and it was killing. I mean, I sold that kit. I don't know why, but that was silly. But this set was beautiful. 23-inch bass drum with a calf head. It's never broke. And that was 8 shows a week for years. And a 6.5 by 14 snare drum, which was just stunning. A little 10-inch tom, and a 16 on a cradle. I mean, this kit was just amazing. Wow. Yeah, loved it. And then I've had like a round badge. I had like gold sparkle round, silver sparkle round badge. It was just amazing. I've got some old drums. I got a 40s snare now. I got a I got a load of different old drums. The old drums are amazing as well. They're great then and they're great now. I mean, the bop sets are incredible. They always were. That's why they're so collectible, because they're gorgeous. They sound amazing, and they're actually beautiful as well. Everything about them, even just like the tom mountings, it's like, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's a great slogan. They were great then and great now.
I guess a new career, copywriter.
There you go. If the drumming thing doesn't work out for you, Ralph,
Thank you.
Let's go back to the very beginning. So when I was doing some research and found that music was, it runs in your family. Let's just say. So what was it like in your household as a young boy? What music were you exposed to? What experiences do you recall?
Oh, that's a lovely question. Well, my mum and dad weren't musicians, but there was music in the family on my mum's friend's side, and my auntie was a sort of a pop star in the 60s in Paris, and there were a load of crazy artistic folk coming from that side of the family, partly Italian. They're pretty out there, and so I think most of the stuff that I was exposed to was, my parents had a very eclectic collection of music, everything from kind of classical records to some really mundane, probably what I would call like 60s and 70s pop. I can't even really remember any specifics, but they were just pretty run-of-the-mill stuff. None of the real music that I was hearing at home really made an impression on me. But my parents used to love live music, and that's where I got it from, because they used to go out to see bands play. And then back then there wasn't this kind of thing. We often go into venues. They used to take me to places. One particular place in London where it was like a theatre almost, but it was a bit like a pub, but it was a theatre called the Tramshed in Woolwich, and they had comedy there, and on some nights they had bands, and they used to have really like Dixieland bands a lot of the time. My folks used to love that, and they used to take me to that, and I just adored watching these bands. I mean, they were having a great time. They were real fun. They were and I loved it. And then after I'd seen a few gigs, basically, I just thought, this looks like fun. It wasn't like I want to do it, but I decided I wanted to play the drums. I was learning piano back then, and they said, oh yeah, you got to learn some piano, but then you can learn the drums if you learn the piano long enough. And then I did that, and I started playing the drums. So that was my exposure to it, really, was just going to see live gigs taken by my parents. So I'm very lucky that I got that chance. And I saw some nice groups. There was a group called Best of British, an amazing trumpet player called Kenny Baker, who I ended up playing with later on in his life. He used to have a group called Kenny Baker's Dozen, and then Baker's Dozen, and then he started up later on in his life. He started up another group called Baker's Dozen again, and I was in that band. I mean, everyone else was much older than me at the time, but Kenny Baker was the trumpet player on the Muppet Show, because the band in the Muppets were all based upon the actual real musicians. So Kenny was the trumpet player, and he played the theme tune and stuff. And then like the drummer was Ronnie Verrill. So Animal was invented and based upon the real drummer, which was
Come on.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and I would say Ronnie was probably more of an animal than Animal was. I mean, this guy was he was incredible, and that's why, I mean, they just looked at Ronnie and went, Animal, that's it. And then the tenor player Zoot with the shades, right? That was based on a cool, fantastic, cool tenor player who I used to play with as well, called Tommy Whittle. And then the musical director of the Muppet Show was a drummer. His name was Jack Parnell. He was an amazing drummer, but a fantastic conductor. Lucky enough to play in a group with him, Laurie Johnson's London Big Band, and Laurie Johnson was a film and TV composer. He wrote the score to Dr. Strangelove, but he did many He did loads of other things as well. He's an incredible composer, and Jack used to conduct for him, and it was amazing. So I used to play. I got to play with a lot of those old guys quite a long time ago now, but it was a fantastic learning process for me. I was very, very lucky. You learn so much from experienced players, really learn a lot from them. It's amazing. So I'm pretty privileged.
I had no idea that they were based upon real people. Now, they're all British musicians?
Yes, all of them were British musicians. That's why.
So,
It was done
and
in the
all,
UK. Yeah.
that is fun. Now I'm going to have to look, once we're done here, I'm going to have to look. Ronnie Verrill.
Ronnie Verrill, one of the greatest big band drummers. I once met one of my favorite drummers, the great jazz drummer Kenny Washington, and I was chatting to him after a gig at the Court Jazz Festival, and I was asking him some tips and talking to him and everything, and then he's a real jazz connoisseur, and he said to me, "Hey, Ronnie Verrill?" I was like, "I do actually, yeah." He goes, "How's he getting on?" and all that. And he was going, "His playing in the Ted Heath band is like some of the best big band playing ever," and I agree with that. Yeah, he's got to be checked out. But I mean, some of the sketches he did on the Muppets, I like the one, if you look it up, it's very funny, where there's a Latina, she's obviously a massive great star, and she sings Fever, and then Animal keeps like going off on one every time. Phil Animal goes like more crazy. I mean, this is Ronnie as the whole thing. It's so funny. Well, I mean, he did that duet with Buddy Rich. I mean, Ronnie was a beast. I even did some sessions with him where I played percussion. He was playing drums. He was a fantastic guy. So that whole band was based on the actual musicians. Yeah, it's great. It's really
that is crazy. So now I did read that, or listened on this interview, that you had to do piano for a certain time before your folks. Do you think that was a good thing for you, and was it? Yeah. And what did you benefit from doing that?
We just learn. I mean, like learning the piano, like everyone knows, is one of those things that everyone should do. My only regret is that I was lazy and I just was so desperate to play the drums that I kind of took it. And then I wanted to get onto drums. But I mean, all of my students, most of them are really good piano players now. I mean, you have to understand all of that stuff now. And, it's very beneficial. And then you go up to another level when you've got musicians like Jack DeJohnette and Gary Husband. I mean, they're like,
right.
Gary, I mean, he's an absolutely world-class piano player as well as a world-class drummer. I mean, that's incredible. But that's the absolute peak of talent plus as I say, talent plus application equals success. Talent plus application plus an incredible amount of talent equals Gary Husband. But I mean, you've got Jack, you've got Chick Corea who played drums, you've got Michael Brecker who played drums. And have you seen the video of Shaka Khan playing drums as well? That's good as well. Yeah, there's a video of her. Yeah, she's not too shabby. But I mean, I think everyone's got to play, some piano, and I wish I'd worked more on it. But it's definitely a must.
That's wonderful. Now let's talk about your drum studies. So in the beginning, you had a teacher that you said you really enjoyed the lessons. You weren't so necessarily obsessed with drums. It was lots of fun. You enjoyed learning and you progressed. Can you talk about maybe what you actually, do you remember this? You were 12. What did you work on? What kinds of things made it fun for you?
Well, I mean, my teacher is an amazingly colorful character. Brian Booth is his name. He's still around and I see him. He's a wonderful guy. And he was actually a classical percussion player, but he was more like, into jazz, but he had a career as a classical player, but he played drums as well, which a lot of guys back then used to do. And he loved the sort of classic catalog. I mean, I owe it all to him because he had a big band, and after a while he said, "Come and play in my rehearsal band," and that's what I did. And and then when I was about 14 or 15, I was playing rehearsal charts of Count Basie, Duke Ellington, all of that stuff. I mean, he showed me basic stuff like how to play crotchets and quavers. He had these books. I don't know if you ever saw those. I loved the books just because they were typeset so beautifully. The Rubank method.
No, I've
They're
never
like
heard of
books.
that.
They're like really rather beautiful books. Yeah. It's just books with crotchets and quavers and all that, but they were sort of beautifully typeset with lovely fonts on the front. And I always had a bit of a visual thing. I don't know if it shows up, Rubank. Anyway, it's like the Rubank drum. I don't know what it was. But he took me through these things, and I was just playing crotchets and quavers, and he was showing me stuff. He showed me traditional grip, and he said to me, "Oh, you've got to play orchestral percussion. You've got to play tuned." And he taught me some Tim's basic stuff, and I just enjoyed it. I never took it that seriously. And then I started playing in his band, which was great. I never took it that seriously. And then, it wasn't until later when he said to me, "Oh, you can actually play. You're good. You think about maybe going to college." I was like, "Really?" He's like, "Well, yeah." And then I really had to think about it, and eventually I went to music college and blah blah blah. So it was pretty informal, but I just loved it. I wasn't hot housed. I was lazy. I wasn't doing enough practice, but I just muddled along and enjoyed it. And I suppose it's a bit like what I say now with teachers who are teaching young students, and say I think it's important to be enjoying it more than anything when you were young. And I did that. It was great. I was getting lessons, but I wasn't really killing it or anything. I mean, I've got friends who are much better than me, and they were practicing more than me, and they were more applied. But my enthusiasm for it was there, and I think that is important for kids now. For everybody, in fact, you've got to have, if you've got the enthusiasm like you and I, you're going to enjoy doing what you do, and that's infectious. That's what it's about. That's what music's about. So I think it's important that teachers. It's easy for me to teach 18-year-olds at college who are super talented, elite, and all the rest of it. When you've got youngsters there who maybe this is their only chance to get like half an hour of doing something, if you keep it fun, it counts for so much. That's so that's what I did, really. Yeah, it's a pretty simple process.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful advice. Let's go forward and talk about your teaching now. And how long have you been teaching at these schools, the Royal Academy and Guildhall? They sound very formal. I know nothing about those institutions at all, only that they've got a great reputation. Is there a curriculum that you follow, or and what is it that you teach there?
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's actually there are two Royals in London. There's the Royal Academy, which is not where I teach, and there's the Royal College of Music, and that is where I teach. And they're two great music colleges, or what we call conservatoires, and they're both fantastic places. And then I've been teaching there. I think at the college, I think I'm in my 30. I think I've just finished my 31st year there, maybe 32nd. But anyway, I started teaching there when I was 27. So a lot of my former students are getting on a bit now. So something like that. Must be 32nd year.
Wow.
And at the Guildhall, I've been there probably maybe about 13 years approximately. And that was where I studied. Is there a curriculum? Yes, there is. At the Royal College, this is a classical percussion course, and that is what the students audition on. But when they get a place at the college, they have to study a broad variety of instruments for the first 2 years. So they have to study drum set, drum kit, Latin percussion, jazz vibes. All of that is done for 2 years, and then after that they can specialize. But their major is classical. But amazingly enough, many of the students do specialize in any direction that they would like, and they're allowed to. It's amazing. They have to perform recitals, classical recitals, which is demanding, and very high. David Hawkins, who runs the course, he is the principal percussionist in the BBC Symphony Orchestra. They're famous for playing brutal music, like extremely hard contemporary music. You can see them on the proms. Last night at the proms, that's the orchestra. Great orchestra. And he gives them a very strong education in classical, but a lot of them become great drummers anyway, which is I'm very proud of. And some of them are fantastic Latin players. Some of them go and specialize in other things. They've all got their own thing. Some of them become session players. Some of them go into orchestras. So that's the college. And Guildhall, which I'm very, very happy to be at, is the place where I studied. I studied classical there. And my old teacher, one of my old teachers, David Corkill, who used to be the principal percussionist in the Philharmonia Orchestra and still is the timpanist in the English Chamber Orchestra, he is still there, and I still see him. He hasn't changed at all. He's amazing. He's done everything. He's just a legend. He's incredible. He's also a conductor, an organist, you name it. He's done it all. And so I still bump into him, which is humbling and amazing to see that. And there it is different because it's a jazz course. They have a classical course, and those classical students can come and do an option with me if they like. Some of them do, but primarily there's a jazz course, and I teach on the jazz course. So there's a curriculum. I wrote the curriculum at the Royal College, and they follow that. But at the Guildhall, I don't have to follow any curriculum. I just teach them whatever I want or whatever they want to learn, which is great. They have a choice of quite a few drum set teachers. Yeah, there's a long list of teachers, and they can choose who they want. They can chop and change. It's really good. It's great. So and I went in there because I'm known more as a session player or a groove guy. I went in there sort of initially teaching guys how to play groove, and I used to teach in my studio. Students used to come up to my house and learn there, and they used to just have their lessons in a studio setting. And now I've moved. I don't have my studio, so I go into college, and I quite often teach in the college studio, which is fantastic. And the students put on the track, we record, we talk about it, we tweak it, then they come out, they hear it, and then they do again, and so on. It's a real world experience. So it's fantastic. I've got great colleagues, lots of great drummers, all my friends. They're wonderful who teach there as well. So yeah, I mean it's nice. It's a real buzz when your students come out and they do well. Yeah. And I see loads of them in the industry. I've got quite a few ex-Royal College students who actually employ me, Rob being one of them, who I was at British Grove with. There's another guy called Tim Henty. He's a fantastic conductor. He's used me before. There's a couple of other guys who I've worked with as well, but I've forgotten his name now. Anyways, it'll come back to me in a minute. Anyways, one of the guys, he's a fantastic arranger. He's one of the writers on Family Guy now, and he's used me for sessions and all that. He's incredible. Can't believe I've forgotten his name. Anyway, I've got. So it's been a long 30 years. But anyway, and then I've got various different ex-students come out, like Lucy Landimore. She went out and started off in Hans Zimmer Live, and then she's gone over to World of Hans Zimmer. She invited me out to Wembley to go and see her show. She's fantastic. I mean, she was playing the Black Page drum solo in Young Musician of the Year when she was 18, just after she's auditioned to come and study at the Royal College. And I was one of the judges on that, and I was like, shit. I mean, I mean, they're all great. All my students, I'm lucky to have them. They're fantastic. So it's a big part of my life. It's a lovely thing to do.
Wow. And we haven't even really talked about your playing career yet, which is just absolutely bananas. So why do people like Bjork, Jeff Beck, God rest his soul, Count Basie, ABBA? Why do people call you? Why do you get the call? Is it because you're so affable that you have? Well,
some would say not. Oh, that's another question. Well, most of the time, most of the people, I mean, aside from the sort of long-term kind of touring gigs that I did, like starting off with, I came out of college and then I went on the road with Gloria Gaynor, which was fantastic. Then next, like the first pop gig that I was doing, a proper pop gig, was that group Everything But the Girl, Ben Watt and Tracy Thorn, fantastic artists. I went on the road with them. It was amazing. Then in the 90s, I was in Van Morrison's band, band for 4 years, and then I spent a bit of time with him after that as well. And then after that, I was in the Waterboys. They're my long-term gigs. That was for 10 years. And then most of the rest of the other people are generally like studio or short-term live appearances that I've done, that I've worked with. And often I haven't even met the artists. And so, that's how really you get the call to come to these people, because maybe the musical director or the producer asks for you. That's the bottom line, really. It's a little bit different when you go and play with an artist, because you either audition or you get recommended or you meet someone. I don't know how I got recommended Gloria Gaynor, but Everything But the Girl, I got recommended by a friend who was in the band, and I went and did that. I went and had a play. They liked my playing, and then I went and played with them. Van, I was recommended to the gig by Georgie Fame because he wanted to put a jazzy type group together, so I went and played with him. First thing we did was an album, then we did gigs, and then I joined the band, blah blah blah.
Wow.
And then Waterboys, I just met. I met Mike Scott in London at the Groucho Club. It's a famous club, and we were doing a gang show there with my friend Hamish Stewart from the Average White Band. And what happened was Mike, one of the artists on that, and I barely, dare I say it, even heard. I wasn't that aware of the Waterboys. I'd heard of them, but I wasn't particularly aware of their music, even though loads of my friends were playing with them and stuff. And I played with Mike, and then I got the gig. So those are the long-term gigs, and most of the rest of them are like one night, one-offs, or sessions for people or things like that. So it's normally it's a recommendation every time about someone that you know. So if people are trying to, students are always asking me, how do you do this? How do you get on there? It's always going to be, for the most part, through personal recommendation that you will get something. Mostly people will look at social media and all the rest of it, and I like to put stuff on there, and I think it's nice. It's a good shop window for guys, but I think in general, a personal recommendation, people still ask me to recommend, and I and hopefully people still recommend me. I think that's still a very solid way of doing it. That's how.
And it's funny because people obviously, there's so much in the way of music and drumming on social media, and
Yes.
people my age and maybe a bit older and maybe a little bit younger, they can look down upon that and say it's not real playing, and because sometimes the folks on social media do not have necessarily a lot of live playing experience, but it is what it is, and creating content is just another side to playing the drums. When you're teaching, do you have any students bring up Instagram or YouTube drummers for you and ask what your opinion is? And what is your take on the social media?
Well, I really like social media. They do come to me and they say, what about so-and-so? And they're introducing me to new guys all the time, people that I haven't heard of. And I'm like, who's this? This guy's amazing. Or who's that? And I love these things. I like it. I love to, I look at social media and I enjoy it. The sort of the good, the bad, and the ugly. I skim through.
That's great.
Yeah, I want to see what Vinny's doing, or Steve Gadd, or anyone you like. I love seeing friends pop up, and then you get James Gadsden commenting, or and this is a buzz to see what these people are doing. And then I love to see great young players come on as well, and there are loads of them. So there are a lot of people who are content creators, and I don't have a problem with that. I'm honestly, I've never specifically made a film to put it on social media, but I have encouraged others to do that. One of those people being Ash Sohn, because I knew Ash when he was much younger. He was like, oh, these people don't know what they're talking about. I'm like, look, man, just do your own thing, put your content out, because you know what you're doing, you can do it, get it out there. That gives you you're in charge of your own destiny. He's done that. I'm not taking the credit for that, but I encouraged him to do it. He's done that. He's got loads of followers. People want to see him because he's great. But I mean, that applies to lots of people. So I think it's good. The only thing is, I could, easily put loads of negatives on my feed if I wanted to throughout my day. I struggle to get to work. I have time pressures. Traveling is hard. Things go wrong. I've got all the rest of it. I could put that on. Who would want to read it? It's boring.
No.
We all get that. We all have struggles. We all have problems. I don't really put that on, but people like to see like what setups I'm using. If we have a bit of fun or a laugh and we got some friends, that's fun to me. And I think social media is good for that. I've got a friend, Hayden Bendel. He's a producer, engineer. Used to work at Abbey Road. He'll geekily put screenshots of Pro Tools or some vintage mics, or he'll take just arty pictures of I don't know, a close up of a window or something like that. And I love all of that as well. Or he's got a take on things. And all of that stuff I like to see. It's a bit of a time waste. I agree. But it's fun. It's good, and it can be useful. People read and look at social media, and it's nice. I'm not trying to project anything that I am not or don't do, but I try and keep it real. In fact, I struggle. I don't get the chance to put all of the things I want to on social media because Instagram is such a clunky app. It's you can't easily repost. You know what it's like. I just can't be bothered, and we take pictures, and I just don't have time to post stuff, even though I wanted to. So I've still got a backlog of things that I haven't put up yet. I'll probably put up later, but it doesn't really matter. In general, it is good. It's a nice thing.
People love to see what you're doing, and I loved seeing your setup and what you were doing. We didn't talk about those chamois mufflers.
Oh,
Can
yeah.
we talk about that now? I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, that's the first time I've ever come across those because, the engineer on that session was John Barrett. He actually does work at Abbey Road, but he was freelancing over at British Grove. And I asked him where he got that from because he said, I bought these chamois leathers because they said they might want tea towels. And I'm like, I love tea towels. We normally just drape the tea towel over the toms and we get that dry Ringo sound. Love it. It's great. Just put them on. Record it, just tape them down, make sure they don't fall off. But he goes, I've got these chamois leathers, and then he got it, and then he cut it up because we put it on 3 different toms, and then he got these little butterfly clips, like you clip papers together, you put them on the rims. Man, they're really good because you only need like about a third or a quarter, and they sound like super dry Ringo-ish. Really like that. It's a great tip. I've never seen that before, so I highly recommend that. Actually, dry. I love that sound. It's great, so I recommend it if people want to try that dry, really present tom sound, thuddy. It's something different, it's a texture, but the clients actually wanted it. I never suggested it on that session. They're like, oh yeah, we want the toms, we want them tea towels type thing, really dry. So before we even started the session, I dried them up, plenty of moon gel, bit of gaffer tape. No, they wanted it drier, so they got it. And they said, yep, that's exactly what we want. Thank you.
Wow, that's fabulous.
Worth a go. Yeah, it's worth a go. It's only a chamois leather. It's not too expensive. And you can polish up the anything you want after.
That's great. I bought the broadcaster kit simply because the ABBA show needs more of a deader, a little bit more of a controlled sound, a little bit more of a retro sound, but it also can be a little more live if you want. So that kind of muffling sounds like it might be something fun to try.
Honestly, I haven't even tried a broadcaster set ever.
Oh, okay.
I really want to.
They're different than your USAs for sure.
Yeah, are they? Yeah. Everyone tells me they're absolutely incredible. I mean, I'm so happy with what I've got. I can't tell you, but everyone is raving about the broadcasters. I'm dying to try one out, and I will do, I'm sure, sooner or later. But I know everyone just goes like, "Wow, so happy!"
They're different. You have to call Dave Phillips and see if he can arrange that for you.
Dave.
What a wonderful guy. He connected me with Ash a
Oh,
year and a
oh,
half or so
he's
ago.
amazing.
And yeah, what a sweetheart of a guy. It's amazing. So social media definitely has its advantages. I mean, I'm able
Yes,
to connect with you. I mean, I messaged you,
likewise.
I think a week ago, and
Yes,
I'm like, what?
I
Oh,
love
because
it.
you did the congratulations to Gretsch on their 140th, and I'm like,
Yeah.
and then
Oh,
and I'm like, I'm going to send Ralph.
oh,
And then
thanks,
next thing you know, you sent me
thanks,
a
man.
message
That's
back. I'm
beautiful.
like,
It's a small world. This is what it's about. And the next thing, who knows? You know, you could be over in Europe, or I could be over in Canada or something. Something, you know, and we'll meet. This is great. We're friends now. That's what I love about the social media as well. It's great. It connects people. It's real
and
nice.
drummers have a community, you know,
Well,
where
they do.
you know,
They
and I
do. And
love that.
I love that. I love that. You know, it's so amazing to hook up with people, and it's a small world out there, and it's just lovely to bring people together. It's great, you know, and it's lovely. I mean, it's lovely for me to be sitting here and you to be talking to me. I'm so happy about that. So it's lovely.
So this is wonderful. Are there a couple of artists or sessions or experiences that you've had with various different people that you can recall that you can talk about?
Yeah.
There's a slew. I know it's ridiculous. You know, perhaps I'll remind you of who you played with. I'm sure you've forgotten. So
No. Well, I've got a pretty bad memory about things like that. But I mean, um, you know, I suppose, you know, sometimes some things stick in your memory. Funnily enough, this wasn't a studio date, but I did a wonderful concert probably about 20 years ago now at the Royal Albert Hall. It was a tribute to Burt Bacharach and Hal David. Burt was played the concert, and we had a list of guests who were doing that tribute, which was amazing, including Leon Warwick, Elvis Costello, Paul Carrack, lots of people, Petula Clark, Edwin Starr, loads of people did it. I mean, it was a massive.
wow.
It was, and just like playing with Burt Bacharach and learning what he was doing was an amazing experience. And one of the things that he actually said to me, and I tell students this a lot, and I always say, "Oh, by the way, Burt Bacharach taught me that." And they're saying, "Oh yeah, what is it?" As I slump up the name drop. But the thing is, it's not really for that. But he said to me in the rehearsals, he's one of these amazing attention. He was one of these amazing attention to detail people, and he plays the piano. It's like plays it like a concert pianist. I remember in the rehearsals, he was saying to Greg Knowles, the percussion player, you know, it was like we were playing Walk On By. It was like Walk On By, do, 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 do. It was playing a wood block. And Greg played the wood block, and Burt Bacharach stopped. He said, "Stop!" Stops the orchestra. He goes, "Stop!" He goes, "Oh, he says, yeah, percussion on the wood block." He said, have you got a softer mallet on that, please?" I was like, "Wow, that's some attention to detail." He was like, he tries to go, "Walk on by, do 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 do," and he stops again. He goes, "Yeah, thank you, that's good." He said, "Even softer." I was like, "This guy is listening to everything in the deepest of detail," which he was, of course, and that was a real learning process for me. And he said to me on the rehearsal, he said to me, Are you playing some accents on the hi-hats in this groove?" And I said, I had to think about it. And I said, "Yeah, I am. I was just slightly accenting the ones, you know, on the like the quarter notes, the crotch slightly, as was my habit." He said to me, "Would you just give me all of the eighth notes straight, no accents, please?"
Wow.
I said, "Sure." You know, I hadn't really thought about doing that before, because honestly, I've genuinely not thought about that before. I said, "Yeah, okay." And I pretty much did the whole gig like that, which really back then I had to think about it. I wasn't used to doing it. I was used to playing some accents. And that was like, looking back at that, that was a real turning point in my life when I learned that playing unaccented eighth notes on the hi-hat is one of those things that it because the snare drum and bass drum are accented instruments, you don't need extra hi-hat accents on those beats. If you're going to accent the hi-hat, you can probably accent them on the off beats. That's okay. But on the beats, it just doesn't need it. So most of the time, I do actually play the hi-hats unaccented. And a lot of my favorite drummers that I've listened to really do the same as well. Gad just plays them all the same. Like Fred White, Earth, Wind and Fire, he plays the 16s. They're all the same. They're all the same. Very, very matter of fact. Steve Ferroni often as well. You listen, they're just very the same. Super consistent. And they make the groove sound really good. So that's something I learned, which is a wonderful little moment and a learning moment in my life when someone like Burt Bacharach, who noticed that and just said to me, "Oh yeah, don't accent those things." So that was a lovely little moment for me. It was great, little things like that. I mean, obviously, you find yourself in the studio and someone walks in who's amazing. It's just an incredible experience. Yeah, I mean, you have to sort of up your game. I love working with great composers on movie scores like Alexandre Desplat. He does the Wes Anderson movies. I just did that score for Pinocchio, which is on Netflix.
Wow.
Beautiful Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. It's a stop time animation. Absolutely fabulous. And he's a great composer. He sometimes gives me some things I can't play. But it's great. I love just working with different people and seeing what they like and seeing what they want, really. Everything's a buzz for me.
That's incredible. And any other soundtracks that you remember or memorable, or what's some of the most proud things that you've played on that you were the proudest of? There's probably a big list of that too.
Well,
buckle up.
Oh, thanks, man. No, I'm not really proud of many things that I played on, but some of the things I liked that I played on, I don't know. We did like a track with Van on a tribute to Jimmy Rogers record. We just did one track for that, and I just loved the vibe. We went and loved the vibe, loved the band. We went and did that at Peter Gabriel's studio, which is called Real World, down in Box, down in West Country, and it was a tune called Mule Skinner Blues, and I just love the vibe on that. It was really good fun. I actually did like a little snare drum overdub on that, but someone suggested that, and that's a bit of fun. It was great. It reminds me of my days with Van. Learned so much doing. Every time you're in the studio with him, it's a roller coaster ride. So I enjoyed all of those things, crazy as they were, because often he often doesn't let musicians do more than one take. So that's I mean, more than one playthrough. The playthrough goes to tape.
That's scary.
Generally, yeah, it is scary because you can often hear on Van's records that the musicians are feeling their way through the music, and some of these tunes are hard. So that was fantastic, good fun. I enjoyed all of those. The sort of the rough with the smooth. It's not all great, but it was an experience, good fun. Other studio things, wow. Oh blimey! I mean, I don't know. Just being there, playing, or like live shows, like playing with Van at the Nice Jazz Festival, and Bono comes on and sings a tune with us. I mean, I was like, what? What the hell?
You didn't know Gloria, correct?
That's correct. That is actually correct. I had to play Gloria, and I didn't really know the arrangement. I'd never played it before, and then Bono wanted to do Gloria with us. That was kind of a big, like, what you call a blooper. But yeah.
Holy cow!
It didn't matter. Honestly, it didn't matter. It was great fun. But just sometimes small gigs, like the gigs I do. Sometimes I go and play with Hamish Stewart. Also, Ash plays with him a lot, and Ian Thomas, who is the regular drummer in the band, who's an amazing drummer. He plays in that gig. That's his gig, and both Ash and I debt for him. And just playing some gigs with Hamish like I did last week. I mean, like he's incredible. The legacy of the Average White Band, the whole catalogue of those songs, and I have to play. A Love of Your Own, real slow, Queen of My Soul, real fast 16s. All of that stuff. I love doing things like that. It's not that big a deal, but it's not that I'm proud of it. I would say it's just I love doing it. If I get something and the artist or the clients are happy with it, then I'm pleased. I wouldn't say proud, but I'm pleased, and that's what I set out to do more than anything. Is just try and do the music justice and make sure that the artist is getting what they want. Take care of the music and take care of the artist, and that's when I get to the moment when I say, yeah, I've done that. And if I go away from a session or a gig and they're really happy, that's it. I'm happy. I don't really mind. It doesn't have to be something amazing, just could be, I don't care what it is. Doesn't matter. I've done, like we're talking about ABBA. We did a thing, a friend of mine, Steve Sidwell, has done a thing called ABBA Symphonic, where he takes out a symphony orchestra and a rhythm section, and we play the whole thing with the singers and an orchestra. It's great. It's great fun. You play the catalogue, and it's great. Just playing that music is so satisfying. Just getting it right, trying to get it right, trying to do those grooves justice. It's a challenge. It's good fun. Anything like that. You know what it's like. That's what I like. That's what I find the most satisfying.
Sometimes our ABBA group, in the past, when they were part of another organization, they would do symphony shows. They used to do tons of symphony shows.
Yeah.
And they're threatening to do more of those. I've never played with a symphony. I would absolutely love to. I've worked with, some MDs before where the band was, maybe an 8 or a 10-piece band, but nothing like strings or anything. And I'm a little afraid of that, a little nervous of it. But I think it would be so amazing to actually hear all of the parts, that are not, that are playing live and not, having a track at all, and without a click, right? It would be so. How do you navigate time when you're playing with when you're playing drum set with an orchestra like that? Are you following the conductor, or are you kind of driving the bus?
Great question, Neil. Really good question. Well, I would say that it's probably about look, the buck stops with the conductor. So wherever he puts it, he gets it. But there is an interplay between the conductor. Sometimes there is not an interplay. I don't mind that, because when his stick comes down to there, boom, I hit something. That's the way it goes. This is the system. So if he puts it down and it's wrong, he's going to get it. That's the way it goes. Someone has to be responsible. A ship has to have a captain. That's the way it goes. But I try and help the MDs as much as I can. And I really found, particularly in the ABBA show, we're talking about that now, but it could apply to anything, is very tempo critical. The tempo of those songs has got to be just right. And if it isn't, it feels wrong, doesn't it? So, I use a metronome for even a reference. Even if the MD's going to bring it in, I will be listening to or looking at that metronome at all times before we come in. And then I will, pretty much go with the conductor. And if he's a little bit up or a little bit down, maybe steer it. I'm not pulling him around. I'm not pushing him around, but just to try and get it just so. Generally, the conductors will thank me for it and say, that's great, really comfortable, thanks a lot, But I mean, if he's outside of a certain percentage different to where it kind of should be, there could be a good reason for that, and I will respect the beat of the conductor, and you have to do that. So it's a relationship thing. All gigs have that where there's an MD, and a lot of gigs have click tracks now, and that's very easy. I find that easy. I love that. It's very simple, but But when you can't have click tracks or everything is live, which I also really adore, it's a little more exciting. Let's put it that way, because you really have to come up with it. So using a metronome, it's always a fail safe. I've got that fantastic app. I don't endorse it. I just use it, called Tempo.
Yeah, I use it too. It's
You've got it,
wonderful.
yeah. It's wonderful. You can program the whole set in. You can keep all your gigs set lists in there. It's amazing. It's cheap as chips. It works. It's really great. Yeah, it's fantastic. It's really good, and I use that for pretty much everything. It's really handy to do. So it's the answer. Short answer is a combination of MD plus you and steering the way, just finding a nice middle ground where it's comfy, and also being open. Sometimes the MD will be like, oh, up a little bit, yeah,
Right.
easy, let's just get it just nice. And I'm always going to go with that, of course, because most people who are standing in front of me, they know what they're doing. They know what they're doing, and if they want it a certain way, I'm not going to argue against that. They're the boss. That's the way it works.
What do you do when you have playing time is an agreement between bass player, drummer, and other rhythm players? What do you do if you're at a session and there really is no time agreement between you and the bass player if they are on top? Because once in a while I've had that happen, not in my ABBA show at all now, but every now and again I play with a bass player who is not listening to me, and it just feels awful.
Yeah, I'm so lucky. I get to play with amazing bass players the whole time, and they're really they're gorgeous. They play with me. They're just incredible. I'm spoiled. I have played with people a little bit, sometimes more like at a student level, and I do have some students who are who are bass players, and they take hours with me at the Guildhall. They take hours with me, and then we play together and we talk about it. And often, they're often, oh, am I pushing? Am I dragging? How does that feel? And most of the time, I'm like, you know what? That feels great. You're just right on it. It's fantastic. But a few times I played with guys. What do you do if someone's not playing with you? I think the answer is, I think there must be an agreement. There must be a consensus with the time. And if the time is in a certain place and the bass player isn't going with that, I would probably try and get somewhere in the middle of where I think it is and where he or she is.
That's great.
And then, just because I'm not just saying, oh yeah, look, this is where it is. If you don't like it, you can get off. That's not what it's about. I try and play with them, but I will also try and find a consensus for it, and if necessary, talk about it. So, I might say, do you think I'm playing behind the beat? And they'll go, oh no. And then I will say, why? And I would say, well, I think you sound very fronty. Do you think I'm dragging or pulling back, or is that how you want it? And they'd be like, usually if that would happen, they would be like, well, no, that's just where that's where I am, kind of thing. I'll be like, oh, okay, it's just I feel it a bit back, and then we can talk about it, make something happen. That's probably the best way forward, I would say. It's definitely not a competition. I'm not going to get pissed off about it. I want to blend and work with the bass player so we can get a result together. Usually it doesn't have to get discussed, because usually people twig it. They'd be like, I'd be like here, and they go, oh, that's where you are. Okay, let's try it back there. Or oh, that's nice. But I mean, first time I ever played with one of my heroes, I was lucky to play with him. Great David Hood from the Muscle Shoals rhythm section. Absolute genius. You couldn't meet a more wonderful player and a more gorgeous guy. And the first time I played with him, I said to him, I just wanted to ask you, how's it feeling, Dave? was like, "Oh, it's feeling great." I said, "Oh, thank you." I said, "Like, am I playing with you? Are you happy with what I'm doing?" And he said, "Oh no, am I playing with you?" That's what he said to me.
That's
So,
crazy.
that's it. I mean, that's what he's thinking. So, really
Interesting.
just like playing with the bass and the bass playing with the drums is like the thing that really you have to work on as much as you can
Mhm.
to make music together. And the better it is, when you've got a long relationship with the bass player, all of the bass players, most of them I play with, I've been playing with them for a very long time, and we know how each other play, and we mess around, we joke, we laugh, and we can also be serious if something needs to be moved around. And you're like, "Hey, you're a little bit fronty on that chorus, or a bit ahead of it." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, I think I was actually. Yeah, sorry about that. Okay, yeah, just cool it." I mean, fine. If someone says that to me, they're right. I respect it. So yeah, hooking up with a bass player is super, super, super important. And there's nothing more important to me than doing that, really.
That
Great.
is that is the foundation. Now, how do you move that time back a little bit? Is it from your bass drum? Is it from the snare drum? Which one is it, or perhaps both? And how do you develop that?
I love that question. Um, yeah, well, I like to basically live with the time. If we're playing with the click, like really where the click is where it is. And so I think most of my musician colleagues, we try and get in the middle of it, right in the middle of it. Bass drum in the middle, snare drum in the middle, hi-hats in the middle to start with. And then I think once you've got comfortable with it, then I think you can, if you like, add some artistic license in that. So a great question about moving things around. I like to keep the bass drum in the middle,
Okay.
but there are certain drummers who I think put the bass drum a little, I mean, we're talking a tiny amount, but some people will slightly push the bass drum. I think some of my favorite Vinny things
Oh yeah.
are like, I think Vinny, I'm sure everything Vinny does is conscious because that's how amazing he
Yeah.
is. Vinny will often push the bass drum, and that makes the groove sound incredibly engaging and tight, gives an amazing immediacy to the groove. I love listening to that. And so occasionally I will very slightly push the bass drum, very, very slightly. Generally, I put it in the middle, and then if anything, I will just let the snare drum just drop back a little bit. So put that
Mm.
a little behind, more to do with how much I'm relaxing my hand for a backbeat. And if I keep my hand quite relaxed, it will just give a little bit of relaxed fatness and just retard the backbeat a tiny bit, which can
Wow.
sound very lovely. And you can, and then you say how to develop, how you develop it. Absolutely fantastic question. This to me is really important. This is what I'm working on with
Mm.
my students, because I'm trying to get them uh, to play great time and get them to play great feeling time. Because if your time feels great, people are going to want to work with you. And so they work on this. So you practice everything, whether it's jazz, groove, anything you want, with a metronome. So I always say to my students, if you're practicing with a metronome, you're improving. And if you're practicing without a metronome, you're getting worse. So that's all you need to know. I'm a great believer in it. And then the next level up from that, which I've done loads of with myself and with my students, is record yourself. So this goes back to the new breed.
Yeah.
Uh, I mean, Gary Chester had many great students, Danny Gottlieb being one of them, Dave Weckl being the notable, well-known, amazing technician, but time player and independence player. And what he did was record himself, which was recommended by Gary Chester. Much more difficult when Dave was doing it than it is
Right.
now.
Right.
but it's very easy to do it. All of my students have got recording rigs, and I recommend that they do that. Even if you just get a little 2-in, 1-in, 2-in,
Yep.
couple of mics, anything you want, as cheap as you want to be, but you can get a pretty reasonable result even on that. And the point is, you can hear what you are doing. And then if you record into a DAW, just put Logic up or whatever, record to a backing track and have a look. Get off the drums, put some headphones on and listen to what you're doing and see what you're doing. And when you look on the grid and you line it up and you say, that sounds a little early. Funnily enough, if you see it on the grid, you'll see it is early. And if you move it back to the grid, it feels great. So playing really, really in time sounds and feels amazing. And developing that by recording yourself is the next level of how to get sounding really good on pretty much everything, because then you can take a very objective view on what you do. And practicing that is a very fast route to improvement, in my opinion. And I've seen it happen with a lot of students. I do that and they improve very rapidly, whether that's big band play-alongs, jazz, bebop stuff with play-alongs, or any of the great play-alongs that are out there, such as, well, at the moment, I'm using a fantastic play-along by Nate Williams. He was amazing. Yeah, he's got one. It's called For the Drummers. It's like some of it's on YouTube, and they're all funk tracks. Amazing funk tracks, so fun.
Hello.
So rewarding to play to. Yeah, they're killing. And Nate is an amazing, talented multi-instrumentalist. He's keyboard player, bass player, great drummer. He used to play with Jamiroquai. Now he's playing with Steve Winwood. So he knows what he's doing. And these play-alongs are amazing. You can buy them. It's like 20. Yeah, you get like a ton of tracks for $20 or something. And I haven't even got through them all yet. My students are digging them. They're amazing. I use them loads. They got clicks. They're all in time. They all make sense. They're contemporary. They're funk. They're a bit hip hoppy. They're all different. They're amazing. And then I use all the play-alongs, like the Bob Mincer, the Peter Erskine apps. They're all incredible. Erskine's got an amazing one, which is a Brazilian one, BRZL Quartet. That's
wow.
This is so good. And then he's bringing another one out. I think it's only got one track on it at the moment, or I've just got to buy it yet. I haven't had time. Bob Kernow, but the Bob Mincer big band app's incredible. The Kernow has got one on there. There's you've got the Big Fat Band, Gordon Goodwin. They're great. All the Dave Weckl play-alongs are amazing. The Vic Firth website has a lot of fantastic play-alongs on there. That is an amazing resource. And I use all of it. You know, anything I can get my hands on for teaching, and myself as well. You know, I don't know, like Harvey Mason did a beautiful version of Chameleon, like a rehashed version of Chameleon,
Really?
which is it's on the Vic site. It's beautiful. You can get it without drums. It's free. It's a beautiful thing to do. Yeah, it's kind of a cool version. There's loads out there. So that's the way I do it. And that's the way I think you can do it. And then, you know, like I mentioned, Fred White is one of my favorite drummers, drummer with Earth, Wind & Fire. Listening to the greats and listening to where they place things, you know, like Fred, he always pushes the hi-hats slightly. Pretty, you know, it gives it an immediacy, which is very exciting. If you listen to the hats on After the Love Has Gone, they're pushy. It's great. They're just a little bit pushy, and they're all the same as well. There's no accenting going on. And then some of my other favorite drummers, like Carlos Vega. I don't know, he's amazing, incredible. And then you listen to like Louisiana 1927, the Aaron Neville version with Carlos, and the snare drum is so back. I mean,
what is that?
It's called Louisiana 1927, and it's the Aaron Neville version. Which is I've forgotten the songwriter now. Anyway, it doesn't matter. That version, Carlos on that. Wow, the groove on that's incredible. The snare is like a mile behind. So good.
Yeah.
beautiful. Gad is a master.
Oh,
Jeff is obviously a grandmaster. All of the guys, Vinny, I mean, all of these guys warrant immense study and plus enjoyment of just like where they place, how they place.
yeah.
Peter Erskine, James Gadsden, Levon Helm, all the all of the groovers. They're all absolutely amazing. I love listening to them as well as all the jazz players as well. But I mean, for placement, listen to the guys and then just try and copy it and then be influenced by it, which means steal it.
This is wonderful. Man, oh man. Your students are so lucky to have you for, man, not only
Thanks, man.
have you know all these great players and this great music, but you do it, at a high level with these people, and you're playing, and I haven't said this, is just, your playing is just absolutely beautiful.
Thank you, man.
And man, oh man, I really hope I get over to Europe sometime, or if you're coming to Canada, man, I'll love to see you. This has been another bonus, an added bonus of being a Gretsch artist and meeting so many great drummers that I've met a few, and I'm going to see Chad Gamble playing with Jason Isbell next month, and he's from Alabama as well, and he works with the Muscle Shoals guys.
He knows David for sure. David's always talking about Jason Isbell. Yeah, maybe David's even doing that. Oh, those guys, they're amazing. The tradition of music that came out of there is so good. I mean, honestly,
it's big.
Is one of my all-time faves. I love that guy. Yeah, amazing. Him and David, wow. But those guys, I mean, the Nashville scene, the scene around the Muscle Shoals thing, which has sort of continued, and the Muscle Shoals studio is back now, which is so fantastic. It's an amazing, it's a thing to behold. It's lovely. Yeah, I've got some great stories. I've got some beautiful stories about when the Muscle Shoals rhythm section. Well, when Rod Stewart first went over there, and they went to do Atlantic Crossing, and the rhythm section was sitting in there, and there's like 5 white guys in there, and Rod says to the producer, "Okay, so where's the Muscle Shoals rhythm section?" And he said, "Oh, this is them." And Rod goes, "No, you're having me on, aren't you? Where's the rhythm section?" "This is the rhythm section." Rod said, "I thought they were black." "No, they're white." "Well, what?" He thought they were black guys because like pretty much all they've done is soul music their whole lives, which is absolutely incredible. And another one was when I'm just trying to remember. They were doing a record. I'll remember the artist in a minute, and we're doing a fantastic artist. And her backing band came along to the setting, and they were looking through the door, but they weren't allowed in. They were like, "No, you guys can't come in," And her backing band was the Eagles.
Oh man,
that's ridiculous, isn't it? It was I can't remember who it was now. Anyway, yeah, at the time they were playing with
Linda Ronstadt.
Linda Ronstadt, that's right.
Yeah, the Flying Burrito Brothers, was it?
Something like that. That's right. They were Linda Ronstadt. They were playing for Linda Ronstadt at the time, which is an amazing gig. But I mean, the Eagles. Oh yeah, you guys. No, yeah. No, you can't come in. I love these stories. But anyway, great. No, it's a small world. It's a tiny community. It's lovely.
It really is.
It's nice.
Thank you so much, Ralph. You've covered so much today. And I appreciate your time. And I've written down a few things that I'm going to check out for sure. I always ask. Oh, actually, so we have one more of these Gretsch 140th pins to give away. If there's anybody still hanging about here. I don't know if you have a question or a reference back to, we've got to make these people work for this a little bit, right? If there's something that you could think of that we have a viewer that's, you've got to be present to win. A viewer right now is watching something that we've covered on our show today, a question, and maybe something we could, like, let's say, I'm kind of drawing a blank here, something. Okay, maybe if do you have any ideas? Because I'd really love to give away, but I'd like to have somebody answer a question.
Okay,
Something
well, like
that we've
we
covered.
talked about today.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we could say like from my touring setup with my snares. What are the what were the give us one of the what give us one of the snare drums from my touring rig? That's a question.
I was thinking that, but I'm glad you said that. That is wonderful because that stuck out in my mind. So, can you name any of the snare drums? See how well they were listening. Any of the snare drums of the 3 snare drum. See, now I need 3. So I've got the bell. Yeah.
The bell blast.
So my rider is going to change now. Why does he have 3 snare drums? You're fired. Ralph, can you be the drummer in this band? So yeah, if anyone can answer, and you know what, we're winding down. So even if you message and I see them later, or directly message through Facebook or through YouTube, please, and let us know. Choose which one of the snare drums that Ralph has used, and I will mail you one of those Gretsch 1/40th pins I got from Mr. Gretsch had a pile of them and said, take them, Dinah was like, here. She was handfuls, and I'm like stuffing them in my pants. It was really cool. They're lovely. So the last thoughts. What advice do you have for young musicians? I know this is a stereotypical question, or come up. They want, let's say, students that want to do what you do and work in the studios and play all kinds of different things. What kind of advice would you give them?
Well, follow your passion for sure. You know, if you love something, go for it, enjoy it, study it, get the best teacher that you can get hold of. Go and find a great teacher. They will help you more than you can even imagine, because they'll be teaching you things, showing you things that you hadn't even thought about. And that's an amazing way of doing it.
Wow.
And then study with a fantastic teacher. Apply yourself. Talent plus application equals success. Enjoy, practice. Only practice with inspiration. So keep inspired. Listen to as much music as you can, because everything refers back to the music. And enjoy what you're listening to, play what you're listening to, and then hook up with as many people as you can and play some music together. And you don't need to be a genius to do that. Just enjoy it and have fun. And that's if you do that, you're being a success as a musician at any level. And that's what it's all about, because playing with people who become your friends is what we do.
Wow, that was beautiful. That was really great. Really great. Thank you so much for your time, your wisdom share. Like, this has been like I've kidnapped you for 2 hours now.
I've loved every. Thanks, man. Thank you for having me on board. It's great. As you can see, it's getting dark out there here in the Pyrenees. Yes,
it is.
Yeah, and it's still afternoon where you are.
It is 3:52 p.m. right now. Yes.
Beautiful.
Beautiful day out here, Ralph. Thank you so much. And I'm so glad we connected on Facebook, and we can
keep in touch.
Yeah, please do.
And thank you everyone out there in the Gretsch world. Please get in touch if you want to be in touch with me, ask me any questions or whatever you want to do. Please just be in touch. I'm out there. I'm on the old the socials, the medias. You can email me via my website, ralphsalmins.com, blah, blah, blah. I'd be delighted to help and advise anyone who wants to be in touch. And hopefully see you out there. Hope I can get back to Canada soon. Love it out there.
Hope so. I hope so,
anyway,
yes.
We'll all keep in touch on the interweb.
Thank you, Ralph. Everyone, you take care. We will see you next time. Thanks, Ralph. Bye now.